Okay, so when I'm in my airplane seat, I'm already like
scooting
this,
out, by the way.
Right.
Okay, thanks Irene for your input.
So the airline story this morning. So the FAA is being asked by a private group to look at regulating seat size. So if you didn't know, red flag, seat size is not currently regulated by the FAA.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't realize this either. So there is a group out there, and they are trying to get the FAA to regulate, to put in regulations so that airlines can no longer just drop down the size as they keep doing. Congress deregulated the airline industry in 1978, and because of that, since that time, seats have gone from 35 inches down to 31. Some fly as little as 28 inches between rows. And this group it's called Flyers' Rights. They're asking the FAA to block any further reductions in seat size until it can draft rules that they are ensuring consumer safety, health, and comfort. So right now, the only regulation there is that based on the size of the plane, they all of the people who are inside the plane need to be able to get off in 90 seconds. That's in case of an emergency. So the FAA says, well, we can kind of figure that out. If you have 120 people on a plane and it's this big and there's this many exit areas, then yeah, you should be able to get off in 90 seconds. But if they keep making the seat sizes smaller and smaller and smaller and more people are being crammed in there, you might think, yes, that number of people with that number of exits could get out, but you're tripping on each other. There's extra bags now when you have that many people. The smaller the seats and the more people they squeeze in, this group is saying this could be really dangerous for consumers. And a lot of these airlines have had some backlash in the last couple of months trying to bring their seat sizes down. People saying, we can't keep doing this. It's uncomfortable already. And now this group says, and now it's a safety issue. So the FAA is looking into it. I think they have 60 days to look into this and to decide if they are going to start regulating seat size in the air.
Well, they regulate everything else. I was booking flights for an upcoming trip. And before, remember, you used to be able to book the flight and then pick your seat. Lots of seats available, move on. Now it's becoming a thing where you're only able to select your seat in advance if you want to pay an additional $8 or $10 or $15. If not, you have to wait once you get to the airport and then just randomly get a seat based on whatever they have left or whatever they choose to give you. So a lot of stuff is changing with carry-on bags. Remember back in the day when everybody with a carry-on bag could put the carry-on bag up top in the overhead compartment. Now they cut it off quicker than normal, where it's like, okay, so you have your carry-on bag. Well, you got to check it underneath the plane. We'll give you a ticket. It'll be waiting for you at your arrival destination. So I'm not surprised that we are here where some outside party has to come in and has to force an investigation or force the conversation to say, I don't want to sit on Dina's lap when I'm flying. I would like an actual seat and to be comfortable because I just paid $450 to fly downstate to SoCal. So it's just unfortunate that we're here and we always get these airline stories, but this is what it is, and it's going to keep being a conversation.
Were you surprised that they don't already regulate seat size? I know Rob Carlmark was.
Yeah, I was very surprised because you would think, I mean, that FAA is going to, like you said, they regulate so many other things. How are you going to not regulate the number of seats in a plane? And then the way in which they are set up. I would just think that it's sort of this cookie cutter. I mean, you can only do so much with a capsule in the air.
Right, like the capacity of like the space.
Like how else are you going to get more creative and make maybe the seat, how are you going to squish more seats in? It's already so tight. I can barely fit my body with the suitcase carry-on at an angle when you're going down the aisle.
Right.
I mean, is the aisle going to get smaller? And then I'm interested to know the ratio of how many passengers to bathrooms. Because, okay, you fit more people in, you're going to need to have at some point more restrooms. Is there room for that? The bathrooms already, I get concerned for people who are not even obese, who are not even fat, just people who are like, how about a big man? You know, that they can barely fit in those bathrooms. I just think to myself, because they're shared, it's like, oh my gosh, how much smaller could these things get? You're up in the air. I mean, at some point you have to realize precious cargo. You have human lives who are flying in the air. I understand it's a business, but to cram in more and more seats, at this point, I just don't think that's smart.
Well, let me ask this question. So with all of this changing and we see airlines just becoming just out of control to an extent.
Yeah.
If you were offered a discounted ticket price for the option to fly standing up as if you were on a subway car. And not saying that the regulations are will allow us to do this.
Right.
But would people be on board to say, you know
Standing
what,
room
I'll
only?
stand for 2 hours and hold the little thing like I'm riding the
Belt you into the
NYC
side.
Metro.
Let's pretend like
Yep.
we know that it's
Like,
regulated,
yeah.
being up in the air, it doesn't mess with your body if you're standing.
Turbulence
Would you
is
be
fine.
on board for a cheaper flight to now do that? Because I'm
Depends
saying
where
that
I'm
to
going.
say airlines flights go up every year. Back in 2004, I was paying to fly across from Virginia to Michigan, maybe $250
Round trip?
round trip. Now that same flight will be about $450,
Yeah.
$500.
I remember-
So, for a discounted price, would you stand your butt up and fly?
I was
to
going.
SoCal, yes. To DC, New York City, no.
Yeah, I remember living in Reno. We would have flights from Reno to Vegas for like $59.
Okay,
Even
easy
cheaper,
peasy.
$49, $100 round trip. And there was an airline called Reno Air for many years, and they would fly back and forth for really cheap. If it's only like a 50-minute flight, I would do that if they allowed it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you just have to think about all the other issues that presents, because then that person does have their baggage. So where does that go? Is it just agreed upon that you only have something you can check or that you can carry on that goes in a certain? I mean, there's so many other logistics. But if it were a $50 cost versus a $300 cost to stand, I'll stand.
Can you just picture that though? Like,
We're just lined up.
Everyone's lined up. Enter, like, you just start.
It's like Subway.
Oh my
Like a
gosh.
Subway car
no.
would be
horrible.
Okay.
Because if prices
Claustrophobia
continue
is
to get
setting in.
out of control, then there are going to be other additional options. And if the conversation now is, hey, we need to make these seats smaller. At one point, I'm going to legit be sitting on Dina's lap.
Yeah, and Carlos Reyna says at this rate I'll have to
sitting
buy 3 seats instead of 2 because there's just going to be no room left for anybody, and your legs are going to have nowhere. So you're going to buy a seat for your legs and buy a
We
seat
talk
for your
about
mom.
those people who are forced to buy 2 seats because their
Airline
body
seats are
structure
small, yeah.
can't fit in. And now are they going to have to buy a whole row if they do go the smaller route? It's like, geez.
Well, one thing I wanted to note is that, do you guys remember when American Airlines said they wanted to shrink the row size?
I do.
They've abandoned that now. So they
Okay.
did say there was a proposal in June, so a couple months ago. They wanted to go from a 31-inch pitch to 30 inches for most rows in economy and down to 29 for a few rows in the back of their 737s.
Listen,
The back
you're
is
in
the worst
back.
part of the
Yeah,
plane.
yeah.
You're in the back
They
of the
got
plane. You
so-
get no space.
No, and they got so much backlash.
Yeah.
They listened to their people, American Airlines, that they said, forget about it. We're going to keep it.
I'm getting sweaty palms just thinking about this. Like
Megan, you
it's-
claustrophobic?
Yes. Yes. So